A 42-year-old woman walks into Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom for a simple speeding ticket. But she won't let him finish a single sentence. Her constant interruptions and dismissive attitude push America's most patient judge to his absolute limit, leading to a confrontation that will leave you speechless. This is Karen Whitfield's story, and it reveals what happens when entitlement meets immovable justice, and why Judge Frank Caprio's response became a masterclass in handling disruptive behavior. Where are you watching from today? Chicago? London? Miami? Drop your location in the comments, because this lesson about courtroom respect and personal accountability applies no matter where you live. If you've ever dealt with someone who just won't stop talking over others, hit that like button right now and share your most frustrating interruption story in the comments. You're about to witness why interrupting Judge Caprio repeatedly was the worst decision Karen ever made, and ironically, the wake-up call she desperately needed. This story will make you appreciate the power of listening and the consequences of thinking your voice matters more than everyone else's. Stay until the very end, because Judge Caprio's final words to Karen will give you chills and show you exactly how a master... Tuesday morning, 10:15 a.m., Providence Municipal Court. Judge Frank Caprio begins his day reviewing a typical docket: parking violations, minor traffic infractions, the usual municipal matters that keep his court busy. One case catches his attention. Karen Whitfield, age 42, cited for speeding 65 miles per hour in a 35 miles per hour zone through a school district. The officer's notes mention argumentative behavior and refuse to accept citation gracefully. Judge Caprio, now 77, has developed an almost zen-like patience over his decades on the bench. He's handled thousands of traffic cases, dealt with every type of personality, and perfected the art of maintaining order while showing compassion. Today, that patience will be tested like never before. The gallery holds about 20 people waiting for their cases. Mrs. Rodriguez sits quietly with her parking ticket paperwork. 3 college students whisper nervously about their party noise citations. Officer Thompson, who wrote Karen's speeding ticket, sits in the back row, already looking concerned. The court stenographer, Janet Mills, adjusts her equipment and glances at the docket, with 30 years of experience telling her this might be interesting. At 10:20 a.m., the bailiff calls Karen's case. Through the courtroom doors strides a woman in an expensive business suit, designer handbag, perfectly styled blonde hair, and an expression that suggests she has somewhere much more important to be. Karen Whitfield owns a successful real estate agency in Providence's upscale East Side. She's built her career on aggressive negotiation tactics, talking over clients and competitors alike, and never accepting no as a final answer. She approaches problems like a bulldozer, overwhelming opposition through sheer verbal force. But Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom isn't a real estate closing, and judicial authority doesn't negotiate. Good morning, Ms. Whitfield, Judge Caprio begins, his voice carrying the calm dignity of his office. You're here regarding a speeding citation issued on Elmwood Avenue. Your Honor, I need to explain something right away, Karen interrupts, not even letting him finish his introduction. That speed limit sign is completely hidden by tree branches. The city hasn't maintained proper visibility. Judge Caprio's expression shifts almost imperceptibly. Those who know him recognize the slight tightening around his eyes, the first sign that his legendary patience is being tested. Ms. Whitfield, I understand you have concerns, but if you would please... Your Honor, I pay substantial property taxes in this city, over $18,000 annually, and I think that gives me the right to expect properly maintained traffic signage that doesn't create hazardous conditions for law-abiding citizens who, are simply trying to conduct business efficiently in a city that should be supporting local entrepreneurs rather than creating bureaucratic obstacles through poorly designed traffic enforcement that clearly prioritizes revenue generation over... The court stenographer stops typing and looks up. Officer Thompson shakes his head. Mrs. Rodriguez clutches her purse tighter, embarrassed by the display. The college students exchange wide-eyed glances. Judge Caprio sets down his paperwork with deliberate precision, a gesture that veteran court watchers know means he's reaching the end of his patience. Ms. Whitfield, I'm going to need you to. Your Honor, I've been researching municipal traffic law, and I believe there are constitutional questions about due process when— Stop! The single word fills the courtroom like thunder. Karen actually steps back, genuinely shocked that someone has interrupted. Judge Frank Caprio stands slowly, his 77-year-old frame carrying the full weight of judicial authority. The entire courtroom falls silent. Even the whispers stop completely. Ms. Whitfield, you have been in my courtroom for exactly 4 minutes, and in that time you have interrupted me 7 times. This behavior is unacceptable. Karen's eyes flash with indignation. Your Honor, I was simply trying to explain the circumstances surrounding 8 times, Judge Caprio says firmly. You just did it again. Karen opens her mouth to respond, but Judge Caprio's raised hand and steely expression finally penetrate her consciousness. In my courtroom, there is an order of proceedings. I speak, you listen. I ask questions, you answer them. I do not ask for lengthy dissertations on traffic engineering, property tax rates, or your opinions about municipal governance. Karen's face flushes red. 20 years of running meetings, dominating negotiations, and overwhelming opposition with rapid-fire talking have left her completely unprepared for someone who cannot be talked over or worn down. Your Honor, I have a right to defend myself against charges that are clearly 9 times, Judge Caprio states. Ms. Whitfield, you seem incapable of understanding that this is not a business meeting where the loudest voice wins. This is a court of law, where respect for process and authority determines how we proceed. Karen's business instincts kick in. In real estate negotiations, persistence and refusal to back down usually eventually wear down opposition. She decides to apply the same strategy to Judge Caprio. Your Honor, with all due respect, I think you're being unnecessarily rigid about procedural formalities when the real issue here is municipal negligence in traffic sign maintenance that creates liability exposure for the city and— Judge Caprio's voice drops to a level that somehow commands more attention than any shout. Ms. Whitfield, you have now interrupted me 9 times. Your behavior is showing contempt for this court, disrespect for the judicial process, and complete disregard for basic courtroom decorum. But, Your Honor, 10 times. The courtroom is dead silent. Officer Thompson looks genuinely concerned. The stenographer is typing frantically to keep up with the unprecedented exchange. Karen's face is now bright red, a combination of embarrassment and anger. Your Honor, I'm simply trying to present a defense against what I believe to be an unjust citation based on municipal failures that— Judge Caprio removes his glasses, cleans them slowly, and fixes Karen with a stare that has intimidated defendants for over 4 decades. Ms. Whitfield, let me explain something to you about respect and authority. In your business, you may be accustomed to talking over people, dominating conversations, and wearing down opposition through verbal persistence. That behavior ends at the door of my court. Karen finally falls silent, though her expression suggests she's building up for another verbal assault, rather than genuinely listening. You came into my courtroom today believing that your normal tactics would work here. You thought you could overwhelm me with rapid-fire explanations, challenge my authority through sheer persistence, and essentially bully your way to the outcome you wanted. Judge Caprio walks around from behind his bench, something he rarely does, positioning himself where Karen cannot avoid direct eye contact. But here's what you failed to understand, Ms. Whitfield. This courtroom operates on respect. Respect for the law, respect for the process, and Judge Frank Caprio returns to his bench, but his presence seems to fill the entire courtroom. Karen stands before him, for perhaps the first time in years, truly speechless. Ms. Whitfield, your original citation was for speeding in a school zone. The fine was $185, plus court costs of $50. A simple matter that should have taken 3 minutes to resolve. Karen's hands fidget with her designer handbag, her usual verbal armor temporarily stripped away. Instead, your behavior this morning has created a much more serious situation. Your repeated interruptions, your argumentative demeanor, and your fundamental disrespect for this court's procedures constitute contempt of court. The words hit Karen like cold water. In her business world, aggressive behavior is rewarded. Talking over people is standard practice. Refusing to back down is considered strength. But this isn't a real estate closing. Your Honor, I certainly didn't intend any disrespect. I was simply 11 times, Judge Caprio states. Karen's mouth snaps shut. Ms. Whitfield, criminal contempt of court is punishable by up to 6 months in jail and fines up to $1,000. Your behavior this morning has elevated a simple traffic violation into a potential criminal matter. For the first time, Karen looks genuinely frightened. Her world of aggressive negotiation and verbal domination has no precedent for consequences that cannot be talked away. Furthermore, Judge Caprio continues, your complete inability to show basic respect in courtroom raises questions about your character that could affect your real estate license. The Rhode Island Department of Business Regulation takes professional conduct seriously. Karen's face goes pale. Her real estate license represents 15 years of building a business, establishing a client base, and creating the financial success that has defined her identity. Your Honor, surely you can't. Judge Caprio's look stops her mid-sentence. Finally, she's learning to read the room. Ms. Whitfield, I want you to understand something. Your behavior this morning isn't just about disrespecting me personally. You've shown contempt for a system of justice that depends on mutual respect and orderly procedure. He gestures toward the gallery, where other defendants have been watching. Judge Caprio pauses, letting the weight of his words settle. Mrs. Wright, in your business dealings, Miss Whitfield, you may have learned that the loudest voice gets heard first, that interrupting and dominating conversation leads to success. But there are places in our society where those tactics don't just fail. They create serious consequences. Karen nods slightly, the first sign that she might actually be listening instead of preparing her next verbal assault. This courtroom is one of those places. Here, respect is not negotiable, order is not optional, and authority is not subject to your approval or your aggressive negotiation. Judge Frank Caprio sits back in his chair, his expression shifting from stern authority to something approaching paternal concern. The courtroom remains completely silent, everyone understanding they're witnessing something significant. Ms. Whitfield, I'm going to do something I rarely do. I'm going to give you a choice about how we proceed. Karen looks up with cautious hope, but Judge Caprio's expression makes clear this isn't the negotiation she's hoping for. Choice 1. I find you in criminal contempt of court. You pay maximum fines, face possible jail time, and deal with the professional consequences to your real estate license. Your behavior today has certainly justified that outcome. Karen's face goes pale again. Choice 2. You demonstrate that you're capable of learning from this experience. But that choice comes with conditions that are not negotiable. Judge Caprio leans forward, his voice carrying both authority and unexpected compassion. If you choose the second option, you will spend the next hour in this courtroom, observing how other cases are handled. You will watch how respectful defendants interact with this court. You will see how order and mutual respect create an environment where justice can actually function. Karen starts to speak, but catches herself and simply nods. During that hour, you will not speak unless directly asked a question. You will observe how effective communication happens when people listen more than they talk, when they respect process more than they push their agenda. The conditions continue. After observing other cases, you will return to address your original speeding citation. At that time, You will demonstrate that you understand how proper courtroom behavior works. Judge Caprio stands again, his presence commanding complete attention. But here's what I really want you to understand, Ms. Whitfield. Your behavior today isn't just about courtroom etiquette. It's about fundamental respect for other people, the processes that hold our society together. He walks closer to Karen, speaking directly to her rather than addressing the courtroom generally. In your business career, you've been successful by overwhelming opposition, by talking louder and faster than everyone else, by never backing down. Those tactics may work in real estate negotiations, but they fail catastrophically in relationships, in community involvement, and in any situation that requires
Judge Caprio
gestures toward Mrs. Rodriguez, still waiting patiently for her case. Mrs. Rodriguez hasn't interrupted anyone. She hasn't demanded special treatment based on tax payments or her business success. She's shown the same respect for this process that she would want shown to her. So here's your choice, Miss Whitfield. You can continue to believe that aggressive behavior, verbal domination represents strength and effectiveness. In that case, I'll treat you as someone who chooses conflict over cooperation. You'll face the full consequences of contempt of court. Karen shakes her head slightly, the first sign of genuine humility she's shown. Or you can accept that there are places in our society where listening matters more than talking, where respect matters more than aggression, and where understanding others' perspectives creates better outcomes than drowning them out with your own voice. Judge Caprio returns to his bench. What's your choice, Miss Whitfield? Karen takes a deep breath, and when she speaks, her voice is quiet, respectful for the first time. Your Honor, I choose to learn. I want to observe how this
Judge
court
Frank
really
Caprio
works. Nods approvingly. Ms. Whitfield, please take a seat in the back row. For the next hour, you will observe without comment how respectful interaction with this court actually functions. Karen walks to the back of the courtroom, her designer heels clicking softly on the floor. For perhaps the first time in years, she's about to listen more than she speaks. Mrs. Rodriguez, please approach the bench. The elderly woman stands nervously, clutching her parking ticket. Karen watches as Mrs. Rodriguez walks respectfully to the front of the courtroom. Good morning, Your Honor, Mrs. Rodriguez says in accented English. I am here about parking ticket. Judge Caprio's entire demeanor changes. Warm, patient, genuinely interested in her situation. Tell me what happened, Mrs. Rodriguez. Your Honor, I park in front of my daughter's house to help with new baby. I stay too long in 2-hour parking. I know I break rule. Baby was crying and daughter needed help. Karen watches, fascinated despite herself, as Judge Caprio listens completely before responding. Mrs. Rodriguez, how much was the fine? $75, Your Honor. It's hard for me because I am on fixed income, but I know I did wrong. Judge Caprio considers for her. Mrs. Rodriguez, you took responsibility for your mistake. You showed respect for this court, and you explained your circumstances clearly and honestly. He pauses, looking at the citation. Fine reduced to $25, payable within 60 days. And congratulations on becoming a grandmother. Mrs. Rodriguez's face lights up with gratitude. Thank you, Your Honor. You are very kind. As Mrs. Rodriguez walks past Karen on her way out, she smiles warmly. Karen realizes she just witnessed something she's never seen in her aggressive business world. Respect. The college students approach better out, clearly nervous but respectful. Your Honor, we're here about the noise complaint at our apartment, the first student says. Tell me what happened, Judge Caprio says, giving them his full attention. We had a party that got too loud. Our neighbor called the police and we were cited for disturbing the peace. We're really sorry about it. Karen watches as Judge Caprio asks follow-up questions, listens to their explanations about midterm stress and poor judgment, and ultimately assigns them community service at a local senior center. You'll spend 20 hours helping elderly residents with technology and daily activities. You'll learn that being good neighbors means considering how your actions affect others. The students accept gratefully, thanking Judge Caprio for giving them a constructive way to make amends. An hour later, Judge Frank Caprio calls Karen back to address her original speeding citation. She approaches the bench, but her entire demeanor has changed. Gone is the aggressive posture, the impatient fidgeting, the presumptuous familiarity. Ms. Whitfield, you've now observed how this court functions when participants show mutual respect. Are you ready to address your speeding citation appropriately? Karen nods. Yes, Your Honor. Tell me about the circumstances of your citation. Karen takes a breath, choosing her words carefully. Your Honor, I was driving 65 miles per hour in a 35 miles per hour school zone on Elmwood Avenue. Officer Thompson stopped me and issued the citation. I was speeding because I was running late for a business appointment, and I prioritized my schedule over public safety. Judge Caprio notes the complete change in her approach, accepting responsibility rather than making excuses. I argued with Officer Thompson during the stop because I was frustrated about being late. I was disrespectful to him, just as I was initially disrespectful to you in this court. Karen pauses, glancing back at the gallery where a few people still wait for their cases. Your Honor, watching how you handled other cases today showed me something I've been missing in my business and personal life. When people feel respected and heard, they respond with honesty and cooperation. When they feel attacked or overwhelmed, they become defensive and dishonest. I've spent 15 years in real estate believing that aggressive tactics and verbal domination represented strength and effectiveness. But watching Mrs. Rodriguez, those students, and others today, I realized that my approach creates conflict instead of solving problems. Judge Caprio nods, recognizing genuine insight rather than calculated words. Your Honor, I violated the speed limit in a school zone, putting children's safety at risk because I thought my business appointment was more important than public safety. I deserve the full consequences of that choice. Karen's voice carries genuine remorse rather than her earlier defiance. And I owe you, Officer Thompson, and everyone in this courtroom an apology for my disrespectful behavior. I came here expecting special treatment based on my business success and tax. Judge Frank Caprio studies Karen for a long moment, his decades of experience confirming that her transformation is genuine. Ms. Whitfield, you've demonstrated something remarkable today. You've shown that people can learn, can change their approach, and can choose respect over aggression when they understand the consequences of their behavior. Karen nods, waiting respectfully for him to continue. Your original fine was $185 plus $50 court costs. However, your willingness to learn from this experience and your genuine apology to this court deserve recognition. He pauses, considering. Fine reduced to $100 plus court costs. But more importantly, you've learned something that will serve you well beyond this court. That respect for others and respect for process creates better outcomes than aggressive tactics ever could. Judge Caprio extends his hand to Karen. Ms. Whitfield, I hope you'll remember this lesson in your business dealings, your personal relationships, and your future interactions with public officials. Karen accepts the handshake gratefully. Your Honor, this has been the most valuable business lesson I've ever received. Thank you for your patience and wisdom. As Karen leaves the courtroom, she pauses to apologize personally to Officer Thompson, who nods approvingly at her changed attitude. Karen Whitfield's story reminds us that true strength isn't found in overwhelming others with our voice, but in respecting their right to be heard. Judge Frank Caprio proved once again that the best teaching happens not through punishment, but through showing people a better way to interact with the world. But here's the question for all of us. How often do we interrupt others because we believe our thoughts are more important than theirs? When was the last time we truly listened instead of just waiting for our turn to talk? Karen learned that in courtrooms, boardrooms, and living rooms alike, respect for others and respect for process creates better outcomes than aggressive tactics ever could. As she discovered, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop talking and start listening. If this story made you think about your own communication style, hit that like button, subscribe for more Judge Caprio wisdom, and share in the comments about a time when listening changed everything for you. Remember Karen's hard-learned lesson. Respect for others creates better outcomes than aggressive tactics ever could.